Okay, let's go over this Unit 4 review. Hopefully you have all done it and you are just going to be checking your work. I do have a slight typo on number 1 and number 2. This should say angle BCA, angle YZX, angle BCA, angle ZYX. Okay, so the first two, true or false. If these two triangles are congruent, are these two angles congruent? Remember, if two triangles are congruent, I know all their corresponding parts are congruent, CP, CTC. So angle BCA, angle BCA would have to be congruent to angle YZX, which is exactly what it says. I just have to follow the order of the letters. So if this one's BCA, second letter, third letter first, this one has to be second letter, third letter first, which is exactly what it says over here. So this is true. This gives the same statement. So let's see, BCA, that's second letter, third letter first. So it would have to be congruent to the same thing, second letter, third letter first. But this does not say YZX, so this is false. So just before I leave these two, I know if two triangles are congruent, I know 6 other things by corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. I know angle A is congruent to angle X, angle B is congruent to Y, angle C is congruent to Z. I know side AB is congruent to side XY. I know side BC is congruent to side YZ. And I know side AC is congruent to side XZ. All by CPCTC. Corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. So much fun to say. CPCTC. Okay, the following. I'm trying to decide if these are congruent by side, 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 angle, or angle, angle, side. And if they're not possible to prove congruent by one of those, we'll just write not congruent. So looking at this first set of pictures, I have side, angle, side, angle, side. When I look at the next set of pictures, I have angle, angle, side, angle, side. The reason it's not angle, side, angle is because the side is not between the two angles. If the side would have been here and here, then it would have been angle, side, angle. In number 5, I know there's something else about this picture I know this middle segment is the same length in the left triangle as it is in the right triangle, so I know it's congruent to itself. So when I look at this triangle, I see 3 sets of tick marks. So that's side, 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 side. In this next picture, I know there's something else I know that's not already marked. I know that these are vertical angles, and vertical angles are always congruent to each other. So let me just focus in on one of these triangles. I see 2 curves and a tick mark, so I know it's an angle, and a side. I just have to know which one. Since the side is between the angles, it's angle, side, angle. Angle, side, angle. Okay, number 7. These arrows mean that the top and bottom lines are parallel, and the 2 side lines are parallel. Well, if these 2 lines are parallel, and this is the transversal cutting through them, these 2 angles right here are alternate interior angles, and alternate interior angles are always congruent. I'm going to turn my picture the other way. If these 2 sides are parallel, I know that this is the transversal cutting through them, so these 2 alternate interior angles would also be congruent. So I'm going to give them 2 curves. Okay, I also know that this middle line here is the same length in the left triangle as it is in the right, so I know it's congruent to itself. And if I just zero in on one of the triangles, I see 2 curves and a tick, so I need 2 A's and an S. Which one is it? Angle, side, angle. Angle, side, angle, angle, side, angle. Okay. Number 8, we have a proof here. It says segment WX, what does this mean? Is parallel to segment ZY. segment WX is parallel to segment ZY. A while back, I saw some students of mine put tick marks on those two sides. These sides are not congruent, they're parallel. So if side WX is parallel to side ZY, I'm going to give them an arrow. Do not give them tick marks. They are not congruent, they're just parallel. I'm also given that segment ZW is parallel to segment YX. So I'm going to give them two sets of arrows. Do not give them tick marks. They are not congruent, they are parallel. This is the number one thing that you need to do in a proof, is take whatever you're given and mark it up in the picture. Okay? So I know that these two segments are parallel, these two segments are parallel. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to write down my given statement, and I'm going to put it in one box, but it could go in two separate boxes. I'm just going to put it all in one box. Segment WX is parallel to segment ZY. Segment ZW is parallel to segment YX. And the reason is because all of that was given to me. Now let's talk about what we know. This is like number 7 up above. If these two sides are parallel, 2 and 1 are alternate interior angles, so I know they're going to be congruent to one another. So angle 2 is congruent to angle 1. I know when I turn my paper that if these two sides are parallel, and this is the transversal cutting through them, 3 and 4 are alternate interior angles, and so they'll be congruent. Okay, so I know 2 and 1 are congruent, 3 and 4 are congruent. Have I said that yet? No. So I have to say it. If I mark it in the picture, I have to put it in the proof. So I know angle 1 is congruent to angle 2, and I know angle 3 is congruent to angle 4. And the reason is because they're alternate interior angles. And I could have written this very formally. If two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then alternate interior angles are congruent. But I am happy if you can just tell me alternate interior angles. And I could have written this as two separate statements, but because they're congruent for the same reason, I just put it all in one box. Okay, I know all of that because of the given information. Everything I've done so far was because of what was given to me. Now I come to the point where I ask myself, is there something else you know about this picture? Well, I know that segment ZX is the same length in this left triangle as it is in the right, so I know it's congruent to itself. So I'm going to give it a tick mark. So now I need to write it down. Segment ZX is congruent to segment ZX, and that's your reflexive property. Anytime something is congruent to itself, that's the reflexive property. Like when you see your reflection, you see yourself. Reflexive, something equals itself. Okay, now this is when I look at my picture and I ask myself, do I have enough markings to show these triangles congruent? Let's just zero in on one of the triangles. Ignore the arrows. I see a curve, a tick, a curve. So 2 curves means I need 2 A's. A tick means I need an S. Which one is it? Angle, side, angle. If I look at the other triangle, angle, side, angle. So I know these triangles are congruent by angle, side, angle. Now look, that's what I'm actually trying to prove, is that the two triangles are congruent. And we've done it by angle, side, angle. So I can just take this statement right here, what I'm trying to prove, and I can just put it right here. Triangle ZYX is congruent to triangle XWZ. Whenever you're saying that two triangles are congruent, your reason has to be side, 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 angle, angle, side, angle, or the HL theorem. This proof does not have CPCTC in it at all because I just end the proof with two triangles being congruent. I don't end the proof with some of their corresponding parts being congruent. That wasn't so bad. Moving on. All right. Now we're starting to talk about shapes being similar. All right, so it wants to know if the pair of triangles is similar, and if so, we're going to tell how, and we're going to write a similarity statement. Okay, so if I want to know if these triangles are similar, first I would look at their angles, but I don't know anything about their angles, so I'm going to go straight to their sides. I'm going to start with this 8. What do you think we can compare the 8 with on the other triangle? The 24. And what does 8 over 24 reduce to be? 1 over 3. Now let's pick another side. Since I started with the left triangle and I went to the right, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to pick the 6. And what do you think I can compare the 6 with? The 18. What do you get if you reduce 6 over 18? 1 over 3. Okay, now I just need to verify the third sides. So I'm going to start with the 3. And what would I compare the 3 with? The 9. And what is 3 over 9 reduced to be? 1/3. Because I got the same similarity ratio for all 3 of my sides, I know these triangles are similar, and that is by side, side, side. If all 3 sides give you the same similarity ratio, then you can say that the triangles are similar. Okay, now I need to write the statement. I can call this first triangle whatever I want. GIH, HIG, GHI, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to call it triangle GIH. But when I name the other one, I have to make sure that I match it up just right. So triangle GIH would be similar to triangle LJK. Okay, let's look at this next one. Oh, and I should circle yes. Yes, they are similar. Okay, 10. I know that these are vertical angles, so they are congruent. So both of these are 40. I know that 3 angles in a triangle add to be 180, so 60 plus 40 makes 100, so M would have to be 80. 40 plus 80 makes 120, so P would have to be 60. Now, when you're proving triangles similar, these are the ones you use. AA, side angle side, or SSS, side, side, side. So because I have 2 angles in this triangle congruent to 2 angles in this triangle, I know these triangles are similar by angle, angle. As long as 2 angles in a triangle are congruent to 2 angles in another triangle, I know that the triangles will be similar by AA. Okay, now I just need to write my statement. Remember, I can call this first one whatever I want. I'm going to call it triangle MON. And if I call the first one MON, I would have to call the other one QOP. Okay, down here it says explain how each pair of triangles is similar. So which one of these? And we're going to then use the information to find X and Y. All right, so I know that these 2 angles are congruent, and I know these angles are vertical, so they're congruent. So I can see that I have 2 angles in this triangle congruent to 2 angles in this triangle, so I know my triangles are similar by AA. As long as the triangles are similar, I know my sides, X and Y represent the sides. I know my sides are proportional. So if sides are proportional,